He could finance it right away. He could finance it right away.
Hemen finanse edebilirdi.
We didn't judge often. We didn't judge often.
Sık yargılamadık.
That's when it appeared. That's when it appeared.
O zaman ortaya çıktı.
Is her stepbrother a doctor? Is her stepbrother a doctor?
Üvey kardeşi doktor mu?
5 nights later he is mayor. 5 nights later he is mayor.
5 gece sonra belediye başkanıdır.
I should be a hematologist. I should be a hematologist.
Hematolog olmalıyım.
He wouldn't just arbitrate. He wouldn't have acted as a referee right away.
Hakemliği hemen yapmazdı.
Was my sister a washerwoman? Carrying my sister washerwoman?
Kız kardeşim çamaşırcı taşıma.
Didn't they realize? Aren't they prepared?
Hazırlanmadılar mı?
Are we building now? Being built now?
Şimdi inşa ediliyor.
They wouldn't be stewardesses at sunrise. They wouldn't be hosts at sunrise.
Gün doğumunda ev sahipleri olmazlardı.
They can always wage war. They can always wage war.
Her zaman savaş açabilirler.
Can you like it? Can you like it?
Beğenebilir misin?
Your wife is an alchemist. Friend alchemist.
Arkadaş simyacı.
I shouldn't be a policewoman every year. Women shouldn't be a cop every year.
Her yıl kadın polis olmamalıdır.
Should you quote? Should you quote?
Alıntı yapmalı mı?
I can't be a cardiologist right away. I can't be a cardiologist right away.
Hemen kardiyolog yapamam.
Your neighbor is a partner. Your neighbor is a partner.
Komşunuz ortaktır.
I was working 2 years later. I was working 2 years later.
2 yıl sonra çalışırdım.
Was often moved. He carried it often.
Sık sık taşırdı.
Is our spouse a spy? Is our spouse a spy?
Eşimiz casus mu?
Didn't I get it? Wasn't I accepted?
Alınmadım mı?
Doesn't it design after 3 seconds? Doesn't it design after 3 seconds?
3 saniye sonra tasarım yapmıyor mu?
Did they increase? Did they increase?
Artırdılar mı?
Doesn't it block after 5 seconds? Doesn't it block after 5 seconds?
5 saniye sonra bloklamıyor mu?
His nephew is a civil servant. His nephew is a civil servant.
Yeğeni memurdur.
Is our niece a secretary? Is our niece a secretary?
Yeğenimiz sekreter mi?
You were repairing. You were repairing.
Tamir etmekteydin.
Getting older every week? Is his week alive?
Onun haftası yasıyor mu?
Won't he be a congressman by sunset? Won't he be a congressman at the end of the day?
Gün bitiminde kongre üyesi olmayacak mı?
I was not a match. I didn't play.
Maç yapmadım.
Should I do magic before? Should I have practiced witchcraft before?
Daha önce büyücülük yapmalı mıyım?
Increases. Increases.
Artar.
Friend stewardess. Friend stewardess.
Arkadaşı hostes.
My mother was a race car driver. The race was my mom's car.
Yarış annem arabasıydı.
Your friend was the mayor. Your friend was the mayor.
Arkadaşın belediye başkanıydı.
Will I listen in 2 years? Will I listen in 2 years?
2 yıl sonra dinler miyim?
I do not organize. I can't organize.
Organize edemem.
Don't you notice? Don't you notice?
Fark etmiyor musunuz?
That manager one evening later? That manager one evening later?
O yönetici bir akşam sonra.
Does it sit every year? Does it sit every year?
Her sene mi oturuyor?
A century later, they must be protected. A century later, they must be protected.
Bir asır sonra korumaları gerekir.
Could the virologist be 10 years? Could the virologist be 10 years?
Virolog 10 yıl mı olabilir?
One day later, not botanist. One day later, not botanist.
Bir gün sonra botanikçi değil.
Can you race the car driver at sunrise? Can he compete with the driver of the car at sunrise?
Gün doğumunda araba sürücüsü ile yarışabilir mi?
Was her sister a supervisor? Sister guardians?
Ablası koruyucuları.
I would not attend. I would not attend.
Katılmazdım.
Your wife was a contractor. Friend's contractor.
Arkadaşlar müteahhit.
Is his uncle a stockbroker? Is his uncle a stockbroker?
Amcası borsacı mı?
Never an editor? Never an editor?
Asla editör değil mi?
We may not object after 5 months. We may not object after 5 months.
5 ay sonra itiraz etmeyebiliriz.
I normally juggle. Uses normal juggling.
Normal hokkabazlık kullanır.
Don't we hate every year? Don't you hate every year?
Her yıl nefret etmiyor musun?
Your stepson was the second man. Your stepson was the second man.
Üvey oğlun ikinci adamdı.
Can't be the organizer after 2 centuries? Can't there be an organization after 2 centuries?
2 asır sonra organizasyon olamaz mı?
Weren't you an innkeeper 3 years ago? 3 years ago generalization, not innkeeper?
3 yıl önce hancı değil genellemenin.
Can't I get it? Can't I get it?
Elde edemez miyim?
It would be right away. It will be right away.
Hemen olacak.
Do we have to do chemistry at dawn? Do we have to do chemistry at dawn?
Şafakta kimya yapmak zorunda mıyız?
Mother-in-laws are funny. Mother-in-laws are coy.
Kayınvalideleri koyudur.
Can you garden at noon? Can you garden at noon?
Öğle vakti bahçıvanlık yapabilir misin?
His grandfather was the CEO. His grandfather was the CEO.
Dedesi CEO'du.
They must meet at night. They must meet at night.
Gece vakti buluşmaları gerekir.
Was his son a glazier? Son go to glazier?
Oğlu camcı gitmek.
It was connecting now. It was connecting now.
Şimdi bağlanıyordu.
They didn't call before at 5 a.m. They didn't call before at 5 a.m.
Daha önce gece yarısında 5'te arama yapmadılar.
Isn't he a doctor then? Isn't he a doctor then?
Doktor değil mi o zaman?
Suspects. Being wondered.
Merak ediliyor.
Relatives were messengers. Relatives were messengers.
Akrabaların haberciydi.
Should you add it later? Should you add it later?
Daha sonra eklemelisiniz.
We could compare. We could compare.
Karşılaştırabilirdik.
Can't you suppress? Can't you suppress?
Bastıramıyor musun?
Never agreed? Never agreed?
Asla razı olmadım mı?
You should suggest 10 years. You must suggest a year.
Yıl önermeniz gerekir.
Her brother was a beautician. Her brother was a beautician.
Erkek kardeşi güzellik uzmanıydı.
I wouldn't be able to grow after 3 centuries. I wouldn't extend it after 3 centuries.
3 asır sonra uzatmazdım.
Last year they keep. Save last year.
Geçen seneyi koruyanlar.
Isn't it a vote? Isn't it a vote?
Oy değil mi?
Wouldn't it add at dawn? Doesn't it add dawn?
Şafak vakti eklemez.
Wouldn't we challenge? Wouldn't we challenge?
Meydan okumaz mıyız?
They would not connect. They would not connect.
Bağlanmayacaklardı.
Can you give me a job? May give wrong job.
Yanlış iş verebilir.
Does he think? Does he think?
Düşünüyor mu?
Is your neighbor a cameraman? Is your neighbor a cameraman?
Komşunuz kameraman mı?
Not a judge next year. Not a judge next year.
Gelecek yıl yargıç değil.
Shouldn't you normally open it? Don't you need to open it personally?
Kişisel olarak açman gerekmiyor mu?
Aren't we equal? Aren't we equal?
Denk değil miyiz?
Now I have to kill. Now I have to kill.
Şimdi öldürmeliyim.
Are we baristas next year? Are we baristas next year?
Seneye barista mıyız?
Was my daughter a travel agent? My daughter travel agency login?
Kızım seyahat acentesi girişi.
Can grow. Can grow.
Büyüyebilir.
It won't cream after a second. It won't cream after a second.
Bir saniye sonra krema yapmayacak.
Was her mother-in-law an aviator? Mother-in-law go aviator?
Kayınvalidesi havacı gitmek.
Couldn't he report sometimes? Can't report sometimes?
Bazen rapor veremez misiniz?
Shouldn't they do it every day? Aren't they supposed to do it every day?
Her gün yapmaları gerekmiyor mu?
It may not be cold after 4 weeks. It may not be cold after 4 weeks.
4 hafta sonra üşümeyebilir.
Uncle's jury. Uncle's jury.
Amcaları jürisi.
Wasn't he always a historian? Isn't he always a historian?
Hep tarihçi değil mi?
Shouldn't we disappear after 4 weeks? Don't we need to disappear after 4 weeks?
4 hafta sonra kaybolmamıza gerek yok mu?
We cannot lock it. We cannot lock it.
Kilitleyemeyiz.
I can reply after 3 days. I can reply after 3 days.
3 gün sonra cevaplayabilirim.
His wife is an anesthesiologist. His wife is an anesthesiologist.
Karısı anestezisti.
We should not send. We should not send.
Göndermemeliyiz.
Can't be a hydrologist after 1 hour? Can't be a hydrologist after 1 hour?
1 saat sonra hidrolog olamaz mı?
He could not immediately become a statistician. Not immediately become a statistician.
Hemen istatistikçi olamaz.
Were you open every week? Open session every week.
Her hafta açık oturumun.
Did I post it in the afternoon? Am I posting after making love?
Seviştikten sonra mı yayınlıyorum?
He was not alive. He was not alive.
O canlı değildi.
Are we building now? Being built now?
Şimdi inşa ediliyor.
Would he take notes at 2 p.m.? Don't stay at 2 p.m.
Öğleden sonra 2'de kalmaz.
Doesn't it hold? Doesn't it hold?
Tutmuyor mu?
Your parents are air traffic controllers. Family air traffic controller.
Aile hava trafik kontrolörü.
Real estate agents. Sizes real estate agent.
Boyutları emlakçı.
Can't I suspect? Can't I suspect?
Şüphelenemez miyim?
He wrote at noon. He wrote at noon.
Öğle vakti yazardı.
Can they normally be sculptors? Visual sculptors?
Görsel heykeltıraşlar mı?
His half-brother was a stylist. His half-brother was a stylist.
Üvey kardeşi stilistti.
Should not be retired at dusk. Should not be retired at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta emekli edilmemeli.
Should not follow. Should be followed.
Takip edilmelidir.
I would reflect. I'm out.
Çıktım.
I wouldn't organize. I wouldn't organize.
Organize etmezdim.
His uncles were golfers. His uncles were golfers.
Amcaları golfçüydü.
May become a urologist a year. May become a urologist a year.
Yılda bir ürolog olabilir.
Can you differentiate? Can you differentiate?
Farkına varabiliyor musun?
His colleague is an actuary. His colleague is an actuary.
Meslektaşı aktüerdir.
He creates. He creates.
O yaratır.
You were organized. You were organized.
Örgütlüydün.
Can she dance? Can I dance?
Dans edebilir miyim?
Should carry. Should carry.
Taşımalıdır.
We couldn't answer. We couldn't answer.
Cevap veremedik.
Do I complete? I complete.
Tamamlarım.
Did a geologist a second ago? Did a geologist a second ago?
Bir saniye önce jeolog mu yaptı?
He couldn't speak normally. He couldn't speak normally.
Normal bir şekilde konuşamazdı.
Is there? Is there?
Var mı?
Your brother-in-law was a designer. Your brother-in-law was a participant.
Kayınbiraderinizin katılımcısıydı.
I shouldn't swim occasionally. I have to swim sometimes.
Ara sıra yüzmeliyim.
His friend was a manager. His friend was a manager.
Arkadaşı yöneticiydi.
Shouldn't he invent every day? Shouldn't he invent every day?
Her gün icat etmesi gerekmez mi?
We would say. We would say.
Derdik.
We cannot place. We can't.
Veremeyiz.
Was your stepbrother a dentist? Is your stepbrother a dental muscle?
Üvey kardeşin dişçi kası mı?
Sometimes they can decrease. Sometimes lips.
Bazen dudaklar.
Was my family reporters? My family reporter?
Ailem muhabiri.
We cannot limit. We cannot limit.
Sınırlandıramayız.
They may not be affected. They can affect.
Etkileyebilirler.
Was your daughter a translator? Carry your daughter interpreter?
Kızınız tercüman taşımak.
He couldn't fish at noon. He couldn't fish at noon.
Öğle vakti balık tutamazdı.
Does he sit? Does he sit?
Oturur mu?
Was my nephew a golfer? Was my nephew a golfer?
Yeğenim golfçü müydü?
His half-sister was the butler. His half-sister was the butler.
Üvey kız kardeşi uşaktı.
Does it invest? Does it invest?
Yatırım yapar mı?
Doesn't it normally diversify? Normally not diversified?
Normalde çeşitlendirilmiyor mu?
Could he settle in? Can it settle in?
Yerleşebilir mi?
You didn't wear it before at 3 a.m. You didn't wear it before at 3 a.m.
Daha önce gece yarısı 3'te giymedin.
Were you going next year? Are you continuing next year?
Gelecek yıl devam ediyor musun?
I can relate after one night. I can relate after one night.
Bir gece sonra ilişki kurabilirim.
I don't recommend yearly. I don't recommend yearly.
Yıllık önermiyor muyum?
I'm not running. I'm not running.
Koşmuyorum.
My stepfather is an aviator. My stepfather is an aviator.
Üvey babam havacı.
He didn't win every year. He didn't win the year.
Onu yıl kazanamadı.
Your friend is the manager. Friend's manager.
Arkadaşın müdürü.
Didn't they mark? Didn't they meet?
Buluşmadılar mı?
He is not a frequent pianist. He is not a frequent pianist.
O sık piyanist değil.
I shouldn't draw. I have to draw.
Çizmeliyim.
Can he draw in an hour? Can he draw in an hour?
Bir saat sonra çizebilir mi?
They may not be tailors every month. They can be tailors every month.
Her ay terzi olabilirler.
His sister is a guard. His sister is a guard.
Kız kardeşi gardiyandır.
Was my half-brother a dermatologist? Can you be dermatologist with your stepbrother?
Üvey kardeşinle dermat olabilirsin.
Should not catch. Should catch up.
Yakalamalıdır.
I will create at sunrise. I will create at sunrise.
Gün doğarken yaratacağım.
Are we going to be architects every day? Will I be an architect every day?
Her gün mimar mı geleceğim?
Do you have to answer at 5 p.m.? Do you have to answer after finding 5?
5 bulduktan sonra cevap vermek zorunda mısın?
Wasn't he in shape for 3 afternoons? Unpublished in format after 3 sessions?
3 oturumdan sonra biçimde yayımlanmamış mı?
5 afternoon missionary? Did he do missionary work after 5 weeks?
5 hafta sonra misyonerlik yaptı mı?
His half-brothers are ambassadors. His half-brothers are ambassadors.
Üvey kardeşleri büyükelçidir.
Is his daughter a forester? Is his daughter a forester?
Kızı ormancı mı?
Can we visit? Can we visit?
Ziyaret edebilir miyiz?
Then it should install. Then it should install.
O zaman yüklemeli.
I pour. I pour.
Ben döküyorum.
I do not organize. I can't organize.
Organize edemem.
Can't wait for later? Can't wait for later?
Daha sonra beklemeyecek mi?
Would post weekly. Don't post weekly.
Haftalık paylaşım yapma.
Did it fall at sunrise? Did it fall at sunrise?
Gün doğarken mi düştü?
Can make jokes often. Can make jokes often.
Sık sık şaka yapabilir.
Would suppress. Would suppress.
Bastırırdı.
Must be the dusk decorator. It must be the twilight decorator.
Alacakaranlıkta dekoratör olmalı.
Can it land in 10 years? Can it land in 10 years?
10 yıl karaya çıkabilir mi?
Is it called at 1 a.m.? Was it said at 1 a.m. at midnight?
Gece yarısında birde mi söylendi?
We should do real estate at dusk. We have to do real estate at dusk.
Alacakaranlıkta emlakçılık yapmalıyız.
Shouldn't it be borrowed? Should it be borrowed?
Borçlanmalı mı?
Can't always be the florist? Can't always be the florist?
Her zaman çiçekçi olamaz mı?
We wouldn't be arrested every week. Week would not be arrested.
Haftası tutuklanmayacaktı.
Your stepfather is the judge. Your stepfather is the judge.
Üvey baban yargıç.
He would become a manager one day. He will become a manager one day.
Bir gün sonra yönetici olacak.
Is your grandson a lumberjack? Is your grandson a lumberjack?
Torununuz oduncu mu?
I wouldn't be an artist at 3 o'clock after midnight. I make artist builds at 3 a.m. after midnight.
Gece yarısından sonra 3'te sanatçı yapılarım.
We do not connect weekly. We do not connect weekly.
Haftalık bağlanmıyoruz.
Can't you press it the night before? Can't you press it the night before?
Bir gece önce bastıramaz mısınız?
Is his wife a cop? Is his wife a cop?
Eşi polis mi?